Hey guys, what's up, guys? Hope you're. Hey guys, what's up, guys? Hope you're all having an epic day. A little different here. I don't usually do live streams on the main channel, but I usually do them on Samcats123 AM, and I haven't been able to because YouTube implemented a new stupid uh policy where you can't live stream if you have under 50 subscribers, which is pretty awesome. Love when YouTube does that. It's epic. So today we're gonna be continuing Final Fantasy and at 3 a.m. and it is chapters 11 through 12. So this is chapters 11 through 12. And when I go live with this and when I'm done with chapters 11 through 12, I'm gonna upload this VOD, this video. I'm gonna upload it to Samcats123 AM. So it's not gonna be on here because nothing pisses me off more than when YouTubers have live stream VODs instead of actual real videos. It's stupid. It's stupid. Live streams are dumb and I hate them a lot, especially doing them on my main channel. But I want to finish this book and I can't do it unless I'm live streaming it because I love attention. I love when all the attention's on me and me alone. And Freddy Fazbear. So since we're doing this on the main channel, I thought we'd do something a little what the crap? Are we live? Are we live? Bacon, egg, and cheese. Yeah, we are. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Let's go. Bacon, egg, and cheese. So since we're doing this live on the main channel, I thought it'd be really fun if, like, since it's like up here, like down up, we do the first novel reading without pants on. I thought that'd be pretty funny if we did that. So it's kind of like quirky, and it's like, who even cares if he doesn't have pants on? Because it's not showing up in the screen. So I don't have pants on, which is funny. Um, love it. Love not having pants on. It's really funny. Yeah. So we're gonna read chapters 11 through 12. And before I do that, I actually want to get some tea started so I can have something warm in my throat while I'm talking during this live stream. You know, it's crazy. You know, it's just weird. It's. Dang it! Crap! Guys, I guess the jig is up. I have pants on. God, dang it. I wanted to do something cool and something funny for when I came back to the channel. But it turns out everyone knows I have pants on now. Shut up! Shut up! You'd have pants on too! You'd have pants on too! Admit it! You would! You would! Gosh. Oh. Ah! Alright, guys, I guess let's just get right into Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria book. Take that, woke liberals. Okay, let's get right into it, guys. Oh no. I got a notification. Okay, good. Okay, let's get right into woke liberals, guys. Chapter 11, Jeff. It's Jeff. He says Jeff. Look, it's Jeff. His name a Hefe. His name a Hefe. Jeff. Jeff watched the pathetic pile of rust lurch out of the parking lot. His heart rate, which had tripled when Mike had almost spotted him, settled back onto its normal rhythm. So I think this is like when I think this is when the robbers break into the pizzeria. As the junk heap on wheels jogged off down the road, Jeff pressed back against the pizzeria's warping siding. Immediately, he yelped and stepped away. He'd forgotten the paint-peeled wood was so wet. Shaking himself off, my name Jeff dug in his pocket and pulled out his old flip phone. He punched in a number. One ring. Click. After the click, all my name Jeff heard was silence. Not silence. His sister's breathing came through the line, faint and uneven. Max? Yeah. The word was soft but clipped off. Even with just the one word, my name Jeff knew Max was on edge. It's showtime, said my name Jeff. Soon as he's back, get the guys and meet here. I think I found a way in. Ugh. Max said nothing. Jeff pressed the phone closer to his ear. He couldn't even hear her breathing now. Max? Finally, Max repeated, yeah. The tone was even edgier. Golly, I wish I could hear this in real life. One word poked at Jeff's ear like a thorn. Time to get paid, my name Jeff said. My name Max. My name sighed in his ear. Then my name hung up. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Maxine dropped her phone on the sofa and put her face in her hands. Ow. 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 Ah. Ow. How had she gotten herself into this? I'm not a bad person, Maxine muttered, muffled into her palms. Her conscience, her conscience, her conscience laughed at her and accused scathingly. That's a word. That's a real word, and I know that word. I was testing you. Scathingly. Then why'd you agree to spy on Mike? That is awful exposition. That's terrible. Maxine shook her head. Mm-mm. Then she felt the anger and hurt rise up, the feeling that had goaded her into betraying Mike. He deserved it. She told herself when she'd acquiesced to Jane's request to search Mike's house. Sure, Mike was never rude to her. He always said hello and goodbye and thank you. It was never like Mike ignored her. He did interact with her, but he never really saw her. If he did, he'd realize how she felt about him. She loves him. She loves him. Aw, everyone, let's get some ahs in the chat. Who's here? Who's here? Who the crap is watching this? Get off my YouTube channel. This is for private use only. Who's here? Who's here? Who's here? Who is here? I'm just joking. You can be on here if you want to. But like only if you want to. Oh, it's Elijah. My name is Elijah. Bro, we're back on 3 a.m. grind. We're back on the grind. Back on the grind. I don't know why the chat is not showing up for me. So I'm going to pull it up in another tab. Everything that I have, praise the Lord. Weird. What in the world? Where's my live stream at? Okay, there we go. What's happening? What is happening? Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's. Dude, I got Five Nights at Freddy's. Why can't I extend this? Oh my gosh. What is happening? Okay, this is epic. Five Nights at Freddy's. We're really quite surprised we get to see you another night. You Should have looked for another job, yeah. All right, fine, we'll work with this. Elijah said, "Aw, did you just gift me subs? Wait, what's the crown next to your name? What is that? Is that bacon, egg, and cheese? Ah, bacon, egg, and cheese." Jane's request to search Mike's house. What the crap? He deserved it, she told herself when she acquiesced to Jane's request to search Mike's house. Sure, Mike was never rude to her. He always said hello and goodbye, but thank you. It was like Mike ignored her. He did not interact with her, but he never really saw her. If he did, he'd realize how she really felt about him. Jane had what? Jane had caught Maxine on a bad day. The day Maxine had put an extreme extra makeup and wore a new shirt in the hopes of catching Mike's eye. Cringe. The day that Mike had looked right through her as usual. That was why she'd agreed to do something that was not who she was. Okay, this is kind of weird. Top commenter crown. Bro, you get the top commenter crown all day long. No one else is commenting on this. When I upload the VOD of this on SamCats123am, you gotta look at the opening. It was kind of funny. I thought it was kind of funny. All right, what are we doing? Earl Grey? I'm thinking Earl Grey. All right. Back on that SamCats123 Five Nights at Freddy's grind. Back on that Five Nights at Freddy's grind. Back on that grind. Yeah, but then you're the one who suggested messing up his job. Her conscience prodded her. Not exactly, she argued back. By the way, she's talking to her conscience right now. Not exactly, she argued back. All I said was Maxine's conscience snorted at her. And Maxine dropped her hands. She looked around the shabby little house and shook her head. Mike didn't deserve what she and her brother and the others were about to do. But how could she stop it now? I'm scum, Maxine told herself. Bake, bacon, egg, and cheese. My name Jeff grinned with his crowbar, easily snapped the old padlock. Bro, he grinned with his crowbar. The rusted hunk of metal dropped to the concrete with a ka-thunk. And my name Jeff reached out to grab the equally rusty vertical handle of the rolling steel door. The sun shone directly on the back of the pizzeria, and its heat hit the still wet platform of the pizzeria's loading dock. Steam wafted upwards. The slithery mist made my name Jeff think of graveyard scenes in horror movies. He shivered and immediately shook off the sensation, annoyed with himself. I always hated that they broke into the pizzeria at Elsie Ellis! I also hated that they broke into the pizzeria. They didn't break into the pizzeria at 3 a.m. That's like the whole thing. They broke into it at like the middle of the day. Bruh, what the skibbity chungus? What in the world? Like, it's like they wanted, ow! Ow, ow, ow! They wanted Mike's, like, job. They wanted him to be fired for it. This is so stupid. They wanted Mike to be fired for messing up his job. But the people came and wrecked the building after he left. And it's like, sure, you could say that this happened while he was asleep. It's not like there's security footage or anything, or that's like the entire point of the games or anything. It's whatever. I can't wait for the new movie. I hope it's I hope it's at least a little bit better than the first one. I hope they recast Josh Hutcherson with Bonnie the Bunny. That'd be funny. It's just weird. I don't really like that they broke into the place in the daytime. Should have happened at 3 a.m. for the real 3 a.m. fans. My name Jeff. Putting on a swagger of confidence he was starting to lose, Jeff turned and faced the men leaning against the old green pickup truck. Hank, heavy set with long, graying, sandy brown hair and a scruffy goatee to match, was lounging against the truck's chrome grille, his thick forearms crossed over a large belly. Hank's downturned, pale blue eyes studied my name Jeff like he couldn't decide whether to laugh at Jeff or kill him. My name Jeff had always been a little afraid of Hank, even more so today. Hank had an old wooden baseball bat resting on his beefy shoulders, and the way he twirled the bat was more than a little off-putting. I think Hank should be off-putting. Um, my name Jeff shifted his gaze to Carl, Hank's son. Even though my name Jeff had known Carl for several years. Oh my gosh, they'd done time together, both as juvies and adults. Jeff had to admit that Carl intimidated him too. Dark-haired, Carl's eyes had the same downward tilt as his dad's, but Carl's were spaced wider apart, and they were brown like his mother's. Dude, shout out to Carl's mother. Several reels. What are you? Several. If you're just gonna make fun of my English for today, then I'm gonna need you to have a hike and get out of my apartment. You made me lose my place, Elijah. Dang it! Something about the way Carl's eyes squinted at the world, and the way his thin lips were usually pressed into a snarky smile, made Jeff perpetually nervous around Carl. Also, sorry, I left my mic at home. Like I had a Yeti mic. I left it at home, so I'm just using a laptop mic. Hope it sounds fine. This mic ain't no Josh Hutcherson. Anyway, I lost my place again. Dang it, Elijah. That Jeff thought made Carl seem even more dangerous. Right now, for instance, Carl was toying with a 6-cell flashlight he had tucked in his belt as he threw menacing glances at Max's German Shepherd, Bonzi. Jeff thought that if Carl had been carrying a gun, he'd probably have shot the dog. There was a dog? There was a dog when they broke into the pizzeria? That's wild. Bonesy was in the pickup's cab, and Max was standing by the driver's side door. Her face was pale, and her lips were pressed together tightly. Hank saw the direction of his son's gaze and turned to look at the spun-up dog. Bonesy was really going for it. Froth was building up from his jowl. Jowls, Joel's, as he barked and growled. What's a jowl? Jowl. Joel's. Saging folds of skin that develop along the jawline. Learn something new about Five Nights at Freddy's every day. In the Five Nights at Freddy's universe, dogs are actually called Joels, which is pretty cool. Dog's gonna be a problem, Hank said in his deep, scratchy voice. Carl kept eyeing Bonesy. Yup, Carl said. His voice was higher pitched than his dad, but it had a coarse tone. Yep, yeah, yeah. That's what Carl sounds like. Hank spun the bat again and then lazily glanced around at the nearby trees and the vacant expanse of asphalt behind the pizzeria. Fun fact, that's where they built the second location for the second movie. That's a whole lot of noise, he said. Sure is, Carl agreed. Hank pushed off the truck's grill and stepped to the open driver's side window. He looked at Max. Told you not to bring that dog, he said. His tone was more than a little threatening, but it didn't seem to faze Max. This is Max. Max lifted her chin and glared at Hank. My name Jeff knew that Max wasn't afraid of Hank or Carl. She'd know them, and Hank's wife, Darlene. Hey, Darlene reference. Hank's wife, Darlene reference. We got a Darlene reference in the Five Nights at Freddy's book. Can you believe it, guys? This is crazy. Do you know what this means? Darlene will come back in Avengers Doomsday. My name is Darlene. Since Max was a little kid, because they were neighbors, she thought of Hank and Darlene as an aunt and uncle. Aw, she told My Name Jeff. She tried not to think about Carl at all. She put up with him. She didn't like him. Hank shifted the bat. Whoosha! Carl stepped up next to his dad. He gave Max what Jeff thought was awfully close to a creepy leer. Jeff needed to get things under control. Stepping away from the now open loading dock, Jeff took 3 long strides to reach the pickup. He pointed at Bonesy and shouted at Max, "Shut him up now!" He lifted his crowbar and beat the dog! Oh, sorry. He lifted his crowbar, "Or I will," he said as severely as he could. Okay, I thought they were going to kill a dog. Turns out they actually just killed Josh Hutcherson. Spoilers, sorry. Max lifted an eyebrow at her boyfriend, but she reached into the pickup and pulled her hand at Bonesy's shoulder. Dogs have shoulders in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. This is a lore drop of the century. Dogs have shoulders. Oh my gosh. She leaned through the window and began speaking softly, soothingly to the dog. My name Jeff couldn't make out her words. Whatever Max said worked. Bonesy barks subsided into a deep rumble at the back of his throat. Jeff quickly turned to Hank and Carl. Reaching into the bed of the truck, Jeff grabbed a large army green canvas duffel bag. "Come on," he said, as if he was the boss. Or Dora. I added that. That wasn't in the book. My name Jeff wasn't sure he was the boss of anything. Yeah, this had been his idea, and he'd been the one to ask Hank and Carl for help. But now that they were getting ready to head inside, Jeff was feeling like he wasn't in charge. He wasn't as in charge as he wanted to be. Jeff motioned for the other men to follow him as he headed back to the open loading dock door. Back to the evil peanut butter sword. Back to the open loading dock door. As he went, he saw Max getting into the pickup's cab. Maxine watched her brother lead Hank and his idiot son into the old pizzeria. "Or I will," she whispered, mimicking Jeff's voice. Guys, the mimic! The mimic is in Five Nights at Freddy's movie book, guys. Mimic Jeff. Finally, Maxine knew My Name Jeff would never hurt Bonesy or any other animal. He was just posturing for Hank and Carl. Still, the words had stung. Maxine wrapped an arm around Bonesy's neck. She stroked his black and butterscotch fur in long, smooth motions. "There you go, boy." "There you go, boy," Maxine said. "It's all right." Shh. Bonesy grumbled. Bonesy, grumbling rumble subsided into a high-pitched whine. He began to pant heavily, and his whole body trembled. He turned and gave Maxine several agitated licks before looking back toward the pizzeria. When the dog's gaze, finally, dog's gay in Five Nights at Freddy's. When the dog's gaze settled on the old building, his trembling intensified and his whines turned into whimpers. Guys, the dog knows ghosts. The dog knows ghosts. Finally, dog ghost. Picking up her dog's obvious fear, Maxine's mouth went dry. Her stomach was as tight as a drum, and it felt like her intestines were clutching in rhythm to her heart's driving beat. Gross. She peered through the pickup's windshield and looked at the obscure area behind the loading dock door. She pulled Bonesy closer. "Oh, Bonesy!" My name Jeff thought that getting past the loading dock door was going to be the open sesame. he needed to access the rest of the pizzeria. However, the loading dock, he discovered, was separated from the rest of the restaurant by a locking metal door. Not wanting to fail at what had been his idea, my name Jeff ran at the door and gave it a strong kick. The kick came from more than desperation and confidence, but to Jeff's surprise, it worked. The lock cracked and the door snapped off its hinges, flying backwards. The door landed with a reverberable wham. Jeff exhaled in relief and looked at Hank and Carl nonchalantly. As if he'd totally known he was that as if as if he'd totally known he had the strength to knock down the door. Moving forward with the "yeah, I'm the man" strut, my name Jeff stepped through the doorway and found himself in a shadowy kitchen lit by only a couple of dim fluorescent bulbs. The faint light only sort of revealed the kitchen's expanse, but it did a fine job of spotlighting the hundreds of cobwebs networked through the dusty space. Hank and Carl looked around, both starting to heft their weapons of choice. My name Jeff spoke up. My name Jeff. Let's go check out what we have to work with before we start, he suggested. Neither Hank nary Carl argued with Jeff. So he led them out of the kitchen. Stepping into a dark, long hallway, Jeff shook off the heebie jeebies. Guys, there's heebie jeebies of Five Nights at Freddy's that had started on the loading dock. For the next 10 minutes, Jeff and his henchmen uh, sorry. For the next 10 minutes, Jeff and his henchmen meandered through the empty restaurant. This is going to be a gas. What? Carl said as they did a quick, eager tour of the place. After one circuit through the restaurant, they returned to the huge wreck of a dining room. Standing just inside the archway that separated the dining room from the deserted lobby, the men exchanged grins. Okay, my name Jeff said. Let's be quick, but thorough. Minimal damage. I messed it up. Maximum damage, minimal time. Hank and Carl exchanged glances. There's a lot of exchanging of glances happening. Then they nodded. Anything that looks valuable? My name Jeff said. My name Jeff. Grab it. We'll settle up when we're done. Good? Hank and Carl nodded again in unison. These guys are off the chain. One lift and one drop of their goateed chins. Goateed chins. Oh, they have they have matching goatees. That's awesome. Jeff, suddenly feeling more excitement than fear, let out a whoop. He he brandished his crowbar like a berserker about to head into battle. This might have been inspired by the Vikings movie he'd seen the night before, but whatever. He was fired up and ready to go. Let's get to it! My name Jeff uttered. Goated chins. He's got a goated chin. My name Jeff said, my name Jeff. The three men exchanged fist bumps, then charged into action. Jeff and Carl ran into the dining room. Hank turned and strode into the lobby. After a couple of steps, Jeff's and Carl's paths diverged. Carl marched straight across the dining room, aiming at the curtained stage. Jeff veered left, heading to the arcade. Angling toward the games area at the full run, Jeff was raising and getting ready to swing his crowbar as he got to the glass cabinetry of the prize counter. Jeff yelled, "Yeehaw! My name's Jeff." His berserker energy exploded into frenzy as he brought down the crowbar on the dingy expanse of glass. A satisfying crack and crash preceded a rain-like tinkling of glass that showered down onto the black and white floor. Jeff grinned and raised his crowbar again, striking the glass over and over. Jeff quickly obliterated the prize cabinet. He pulverized the glass into sparkling fragments that twinkled in the rays of sparse light that illuminated the arcade. Tromping, tromping over the nearly vaporized glass, grinding his heels against any large shards he saw, my name Jeff tore into the arcade and began thrashing every game console he encountered. Pinball machine glass disintegrated the same way the prize counter did. Plastic bumpers and flippers cracked, wood cabinets splintered. The other games succumbed to the similar ways Jeff's crowbar chewed through them. Jeff's brain had gone into hibernation as he gave into the fury of striking and pounding on the machines. Exhilarating beyond belief, the demolition charged my name Jeff up and gave him the strength to swing the crowbar over and over and over. Sweat poured off his face and his breath came in jerky heaves, but he didn't care. He was having the time of his life. Bro, I don't want to say Five Nights at Freddy's is boring, but like that was 2 paragraphs about a guy breaking a bunch of stuff. It's fine. It didn't have the mimic in it though. The mimic! The mimic! The mimic! Look, it's Freddy Fazbear. It's Freddy Fazbear. Oh my gosh! Freddy Fazbear. It's Freddy Fazbear. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through 2 chapters of this. My voice is killing me. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Weird. All right, where was I? Bacon, something about bacon, egg, and cheese. I don't know. Hank was bullying to the music only he could hear. The drum beat of a jazz rock song that was thumping in his head, and he was matching the moves to its rhythm. Lunging left and right, cross stepping, spinning, and hip wiggling, Hank was dancing his way past all the glass framed posters in the hallway. As he went, Hank was shattering the fragile expanses, hopping fluidly out of the way as jagged fragments flew towards him. In spite of his size, Hank thought he was pretty darn gracious in his ability to avoid flying shards. Hank danced his way down the hall and back, crushing glass and battering frames. He was having a blast. Back in the lobby, Hank took care of the posters there. Then, full on in his groove, and not wanting to stop the boogie mode that had overtaken him, Hank started on the walls, wielding his bat nimbly as one of those baton twirlers who pranced around in front of marching bands. His thrusting bat punched gaping holes in the lobby's drywall. Clouds of dust exploded out from the walls. Hank figured he was probably turning white, but he didn't care. He was having too much fun. Carl hopped onto the stage and grinned at the closed curtains. Having been told Freddy's Pizzeria, Carl knew that was probably behind the curtains. What in the world? I think I just had a stroke. Having been told about Freddy's Fazbear Pizza, Freddy. Ah! Okay. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Having been told about Freddy's Pizzeria, Carl knew what was probably behind the curtains. He couldn't wait to start his annihilation, twirling his flashlight like he was spinning a parade rifle in a drill line. Carl affected cocky solder as he stepped towards the gape in the curtains. Lifting the large flashlight with his left hand, poised to strike, Carl stuck his head between the curtains. Smirking, he called out, "Honey, I'm home." That's from the B movie. B movie's canon in Five Nights at Freddy's. Barry B. Benson. Jerry Seinfeld. Carl gazed into the darkened expanse. His brash grin faded. Frowning, his flashlight wavered. He used his right hand to pull back the curtains so more of the dining room's weak light could brighten the backstage area. He looked left and right. Huh, Carl said. The old, crusty Freddy's characters he'd expected to find waiting to be beaten into smithereens weren't there. The backstage was empty. Carl stepped forward and let the curtains close behind him. He felt like he was walking into the choking smoke of a dense fire. He could see a little more than the faintest shapes around him, and the air felt thick and weird. It kind of smelled like they had come from under his family's house when the rats he'd poisoned had died and started decomposing. Decomposing. Interesting thought. Carl looked around, half heartedly seeking something to destroy. He thought there might be costumes he could shred or props he could wreck. But Carl didn't try very hard to find something to bash with his flashlight. He was losing interest in the backstage area. Yeah, sure, that was it. The problem wasn't that Carl was starting to feel spooked. Carl was feeling very strange, even though his life as an uninterested underling to his his mechanic dad during the day and a rabid sports fan after hours left little room for intuition. His gut was telling him that something was wrong here. Something felt off. Carl quickly scurried back through the curtains. He jumped off the stage. Surveying the empty dining room, Carl listened to the sound. Carl listened to the sound of crackling and crashing and clattering coming from the arcade and the front hallway. The sounds settled him. Even better, they gave him back his pluck. He smirked. His smirk returned. He turned to face the stage. Laughing at himself for letting the backstage get to him, Carl was tempted to thumb his nose at the stage curtain, which were still swaying slightly from his movement through them. Then he got a better idea. Carl's patterns had never instilled in him the idea that anything other than a disappointment who wouldn't amount to much. As a result, Carl had been walking around for years with a frustrated ball of "I hate you" in his stomach. It wasn't like he hid his disdain from the world. He flung around plenty of grossing sarcasm, but Carl had Carl had never fully expressed the depths of his scorn. Now he was going to. Tucking his flash in his belt, Carl started to whistle as he unzipped his fly. What? Wait. Wait. Lance, you got it at the perfect time. Tucking his flashlight in his belt, Carl started whistling as he unzipped his fly. "Place smells like a sewer," Carl muttered. So, Carl planted his feet at the base of the stage. "Fire in the hole," he said. Bro is peeing. Oh my gosh. That's so embarrassing. What? Why wasn't this in the movie? Bro, this is lame. This should have been in the movie. Should have been in the movie. Jeff cackled in giddy. I hope he drank horchata milk. Bro, we should have had you say "fire in the hole" for the 3 a.m. video. Horchata. Moviegoers. Dude, I'm a movie peer. I'm a movie pisser. Moviegoer, movie pisser. Whenever you walk into a theater and you're like, oh my gosh, why does it smell like pee in here? That's me. I'm an active movie pisser. Jeff cackled in giddy elation. What are those emotes? I hope you're paying me for those. Jeff cackled in giddy elation as he looked down at a font of quarters erupting in the air. Tingling and trilling and churring, the coins scattered over the black and white squares of the floor. When they hit the dirty checkerboard, the coins spun and rolled and hopped. That's what I'm talking about, my name Jeff said. My name Jeff. He looked down at the coins and started to bend over to gather them. But then his gaze landed on the next machine locked coin box. One more, he thought. He stepped to the next machine and used his crowbar to pry open the vault. It gave way as easily as the last one had, and another waterfall of change gushed out over the floor. At this time, Jeff couldn't help himself. He dropped to his knees and grabbed a handful of glittering bounty. Yes! He shouted as he raised his fist and savored the feel of the coin's rough, round edges. Yeah, they were just quarters, not gold doubloons, but my name Jeff still felt like an adventurer unearthing treasure. Stop reporting me. Stop. They'll actually delete my account. Stop reporting me. Is this because I said piss? Is this because I said pee? Sorry. I didn't mean to. Stop reporting me. Anyway. Gold doubloons. The last time he'd been this jubilant was when he'd hit a modest jackpot with the quarter slots at a casino in Vegas. Then this haul hadn't been all that great, but the sound of the dings and the hoots and the cascading coins had given him a rush. He felt that same rush now. Jumping to his feet, my name Jeff shot toward the next machine in line. He raised his crowbar. After expressing his opinions on Freddy's, bro, I hate when they get into politics in this book. Stop expressing your opinions on Freddy's. You know, Five Nights at Freddy's was is actually a Democrat. What am I talking about? In the world, Carl had moved on to the kitchen. There he found plenty of things to be up on. Carl hooted as the mountains of red plates and saucers shot forward out of the stainless steel shelving unit he just knocked over. The dinnerware exploded all over the floor, and Carl hopped up and down on the broken pieces, his heavy boots grinding into the crockery sand-like pits. Full bathroom outside. That's funny. That's actually really funny. Yeah, Carl shouted. He turned toward the expanse of stainless steel cabinets on the opposite wall, anticipating more ruinous fun. Carl threw open one of the cabinet doors. The shelf behind the door was empty. Carl let out an involuntary sigh. His bubble burst. Guys, there's bubbles in Five Nights at Freddy's. The whole gang is here. What the crap? What in the world? Noah just got here. Oh, sorry, that's Kevin James. That's actually crazy. The shelves. Shrugging, Carl slammed the cabinet door. Whatever, Carl muttered. He moved on to the next cabinet, flinging its door open, fully prepared to dump more fragile porcelain or whatever it was. Carl's shoulders slumped once he again found empty shelves. Angered, Carl tried the next door. Why is this guy so pissed off that there aren't any like plates he can smash? Get Neo in here. Get Neo in here. Empty. Empty. Carl tried one more. The last cabinet wasn't empty. It was the cabinet of Caligari. The cabinet of what is it? Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. A small painted plastic and metal cupcake sat on the cabinet's bottom shelf. Bright pink with googly eyes and two big white teeth. The cupcake, sporting an upright candle, was centered on a small white plate. Carl frowned. What the? Hank ambled into the dining room, whistling along with the music in his head. Ever since he started pounding on the drywall, dude, I love pounding on drywall. That's my favorite activity. Hank had been hearing the frenic, fren, frenet, fren, fren, frenet, frenet, frenet. What is this? Frenetic. How do you pronounce this? Frenetic. That's gay. He had been frenetic. Where am I? Where am I? I'd been hearing the frenetic notes of Toreador's song from Carmen. Hank loved that music. It always made him feel like a winner when he heard it. And it had become sort of his personal theme song. Hank swirled the bat as he rambled past the collapsing stack of bent and dirty chairs. His whistling got louder, and he directed the music with his free hand. The urge to dance returned as Hank looked for something else to destroy. Hank is the big fat one, by the way. He's Santa Claus. A clutter came from the arcade, and he looked that way, tempted to join Jeff. Hank, however, didn't want to step on the kid's toes. Jeff tried to act tough, but Hank knew the guy was a closet pussycat. Oh my gosh. Hank, oh, yeah, guys, I'm a closeted pussycat. I don't know if you know that. Sorry, guys. The truth is out. I'm a closeted pussycat. Meow, meow, meow. Hank also knew my name Jeff was afraid of him. Hank thought that was a hoot as he played into it as much as possible. But today he decided to let my name Jeff feel like he was the leader. Nah, Hank could find something else to play with. Maybe the kitchen, Hank thought. My name is Hank. He started meandering in that direction, using the bat to destroy as much furniture as he could along the way. The kitchen, the kitchen, although not by any means bright, was lit enough that Carl hadn't needed his flashlight to see. The cupcake nestled in misshapen pitch of darkness under the shelf above it, however, required more illumination. What was that thing? Carl lifted his flashlight and aimed its beam at the bulging white eyes nestled in the hot pink. The ants crawling on its skin feeling hadn't gotten. What in the world am I reading? The ants crawling on the skin feeling hadn't gotten back. What the crap is this? The ants crawling on the skin feeling he'd gotten backstage return. Okay. The cupcake was just plain wrong. The way its gaze appeared to be locked on Carl made him want to. The cupcake blinked. Carl yelped. Yelp! Before he could decide what to do about the animated minimal cake, the resounding clank came from behind him. Carl spun around, not sure what to expect when he returned, but totally pent up and ready for, well, anything. Carl was relieved when he saw no movement except the back and forth motion of two large copper pots hanging from a stainless steel rack above the heavy-duty restaurant range. Carl rolled his eyes. My name is Carl. Carl rolled his eyes at his overreaction and reversed direction to return his attention to the weird little cupcake. He once again aimed his flashlight at the cupcake was gone. Carl sucked in his breath as he stared at the uneven light jittering out in front of his flashlight. He gazed back. His gaze backed up to his hand. It was shaking. Well, hell yeah, it was shaking. Where did the cupcake go? His eyes were wide open as he could get them. Carl slowly rotated, clutching his flashlight as he swept the area around him with it. beam. The wobbling ray of light cut through the kitchen's splotchy grayness and landed on Carl's. Eyes nearly popped out of his head. He'd found the cupcake, and that wasn't all. The pink cupcake was on its place, and were now being held in a massive yellow furred hand. Carl's flashlight beam waggled as it rose upwards from the cupcake. When the light encountered the moth-hole, dingy yellow face of a massive chick with a huge mouth full of bare teeth, Carl only had a second to feel a surge of shock before the psychotic-looking bird lunged at him. This is Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Right? I don't know who this person is, but welcome. Well, glad to have you here. This is the first live stream in history to be done in history. All right, that was chapter 1. Gosh, it's hot in here. Why is Arizona so hot? Man, I hate Arizona. All my homies hate Arizona. Hey guys, welcome back to the first ever live stream ever to be done in basketball shorts. All right, chapter 2. Chapter Jeff. You've seen most of my skits, they're gold. Are you an individual I know in real life? Because I'm pretty sure I know a guy with the last name Goose. Talk to me, Goose. Talk to me, Goose. Raptor Farmers Peak, it is peak. Tell me something I don't know. Raptor Farm is really good. I'm writing a new one. Well, kinda. Shut up. Shut up. Get out of here with that well, kinda. This is not a safe space for well, kinda people. Who's your favorite 3 a.m. character? Don't do that. It's like asking someone their favorite child. Clearly, you haven't checked your sheets. I forgot what I said 2 seconds ago. I have no idea what that means. Gosh, I hope this isn't being recorded. All right, I'm going to get some milk. I'm going to get some milk. We'll be right back for chapter 12. Woo! What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Whole Milk. Welcome back to another episode of Whole Milk. Answer Elijah's question. Welcome back to another episode of Milk. Welcome back to another episode of Walmart Whole Milk. Welcome back to another episode of Iodized Salt. Welcome back to another episode of Granulated Sugar. Meow, meow, meow. Let's get some meows in the chat. Let's get some meows in the chat. Let's get some meows in the chat. Chica the Kitchen is in the book. Let's get some meows in the chat for Kitchen the Chicken. Let's get some meows in the chat for Chica. Let's get some meows. Oh, 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 oh. Meow, meow, meow. This is weird. What is this? I hate live streaming, guys. It's so funny. Meow for Chica. All right, chapter 12. Holy moly. Also, that entire chapter was just a description of a 2-second scene in the movie where they go in and they break up the place. But in the book, you get iconic Carl peeing scenes. So it's kind of like, oh, which one's better? I always do this. I always look ahead to see how long a chapter is, and I piss myself off every single time I do that because it's so long. We're on the Minecraft servers together. Oh, with Jack-o'-lantern? That makes sense. I'd like to be in Jack's videos more. That's something my 3 a.m. people won't understand. I haven't really told them about it. Hey, Dad. What's up, Dad? Welcome back to another epic dad. Let's get some dads in the chat. We're reading Five Nights at Freddy's book. Ignore the meows in the chat. Let's get some meows and dads in the chat. We equal opportunities. DEI for meows in the chat. Let's get some old. You already had old milk in the stream, Noah. You missed it. Makes it happen 3 times based. Are you drinking coffee? No, it's Earl Grey tea. Yep, man. It's for my throat because I've been screaming for the past hour. How are there 7 people in there? Oh my gosh! 7 people. This is crazy. Just a couple. Every once in a while, I hear my roommates like outside just start giggling at what I'm saying in here. It's so funny. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to have to take some Tylenol. My head's been killing me. Twin Peak. Five Nights at Peak. 5 Nights at Peak 2. I can't wait to say Five Nights at Freddy's 2-1. Five Nights at Freddy's 2-1. All right, Big J, Jeff. Just a couple steps from the service door that separated the kitchen from the back hallway, Hank was readying his bat when he heard a shriek that stopped him in his tracks. The shriek was loud. It felt like it radiated through the halls. Hank's skin and what in the world? The shriek was loud, and it felt like it radiated right through Hank's skin and drilled into his veins, congealing the blood that was already trying to flow through him. The sound was very clearly coming from the other side of the door. Ugh! Hank was approaching. His whole body was quivering in response to the chilling sound. The shriek had been so piercing that it hadn't sounded human. But if the shriek was human, it had to have come from his son. Bum, bum, bum. Hank stepped forward and cautiously peered through the round window, set in the service door, tense, ready to react, and hanging back a couple feet from the door. Hank looked through the dirty glass because the kitchen lights were so lame. God, let's get an L for those kitchen lights. Boo! L kitchen lights. Boo! Boo! Lame kitchen lights because the kitchen lights were so lame. Hank couldn't see much of anything through the glass. He had to get closer. The Tory Doors song having come to a screeching stop, and the tingling sound. Did they just change fonts? I think they either used less ink for this side or they changed fonts. What in the world? Oh, it's probably because of this. They use more ink for this because of the top part. I don't know. Different font Johnson. Let's get an L for fonts. The tingling sound in the arcade having ended a few minutes before. Hank shook off the sudden grim silence that pressed in around him. He put his face up to the door's glass. The silence gave way to another crescendo of noise. This time, screams intertwined with heavy gasps and glamorous chaos of taps and clangs and thunks. Hank's gaze looking toward the sound, and he saw Hank let out a mewl of surprise and horror. His breath caught half in and half out, threatening to choke him. Hank yawned at the prone body of his son, starting at Carl's flopping feet and moving up his writhing body. Hank's gaze landed on something that just couldn't be possible. What it was. A small, bright pink cupcake with a toothy mouth was chewing his way through Carl's face. That's not funny. That isn't funny. Or what was left of it. Carl? Hank breathed. Carl! The truth was, Carl no longer had a face. The cupcake was burrowed halfway in Carl's head. The bone structure of the Carl's face was obliterated. I don't know if this was the best time for my dad to join. The book has been so boring up till now. And now it's getting all gory. Whatever. And the cupcake was still going. Oh my gosh. Too stunned too stunned to even begin to process what he was seeing, Hank yanked his gaze upward. It tracked along the strips of fuzzy yellow and orange material clinging to exposed metal. It ran over the bulge of more fuzzy yellow, past the dirty bib with the words, "Let's eat," and it landed on the open orange beak, revealing 2 rows of vicious-looking teeth. Above the teeth and the beak, irradiated white eyes were staring directly back at Hank. Can I make you an instrumental? What? I'm getting like actual people who like Five Nights at Freddy's in these live streams. That's crazy. Aaron Music, what's up, man? Give me a subscribe, and then maybe I'll let you give me an instrumentals. Although my inbox is full of people wanting to give me instrumentals. Get in line, buddy. No, yeah, let's talk. Let's talk. What's that there? What does there mean? Oh, you subscribed. I thought you like instantly made me an instrumental. Boom, instrumental. Finally, instant instrumental. Yeah, man. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I need a score for a few projects. Let's talk about it. My Instagram, samcots1234. DM me on there. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Hank yanked his gaze upwards. Hank screamed. Once he emptied all the coin vaults of their booty, my name Jeff had filled his duffel bag with his loot and slung it over his shoulder, straining happily. Jeff had headed toward the front of the restaurant. That's interesting. I wonder if everyone has like parallels to the animatronics. Cause like Hank, they're talking about him now like he's a pirate. Like he's getting gold doubloons and booty and all that stuff. His name is Jeff. And he does that. I don't really know what other parallels there are. Like Hank. I don't know. Why are they making him sound like a pirate? This is weird. My name, Jeff, had seen Hank heading toward the back hallway. He didn't know where Carl was, and at that moment, he hadn't cared. He was in search of more spoils. Doing a quick exploration of the front hallway, poking his head briefly behind the corner of the closed doors, Jeff had found the security office at the end of the hallway. When he spotted the old security camera equipment, he knew he could do some real damage in that room. Jeff had smiled wildly as he stepped into the unlit room. Its only lights came from the security monitors. Eager to lay waste to the equipment, Jeff hadn't bothered swiping at the light switch. He dropped his duffel bag at the floor. It had landed with a satisfying rush of clinks and a few tinkles. Shut up, that's not funny. As a handful of coins escaped from the canvas carrier. My name Jeff, Jeff said. Jeff had started toward the desk that held the monitors. He'd raised his crowbar in preparation for some more body buzzing vandalism. Stepping behind the desk, Jeff had taken aim at the monitors. And that was when he heard the screams. It started with a screech that didn't even sound like it had come from a person's mouth. A screech of silence. A stretch of silence. A screech of silence. What is that? What does a screech of sound like? What does a screech of sound like? Yeah. I'm not gonna say my Discord name out loud, but it's my YouTube name, and that's the only hint you're gonna get. So sorry. Wish I could give you more. I can't. Great! You made me lose my place. Dang it, Aaron music! Oh! It's fine. I'll find it. Where was I? Jeff, eager to lay waste to the equipment, my name Jeff hadn't bothered swiping at a light switch. He dropped his duffel bag on the floor. It had landed with a satisfying rush of clinks and a few tinkles. My name Jeff started toward the desk that held his monitors. He'd raised his crowbar in preparation for some more body buzzing vandalism. Welcome back to another episode of Body Buzzing Vandalism. Stepping behind the desk, my name Jeff had taken aim at the monitors. And that was when he heard the screams. It started from the screech that didn't even sound like it come from... Oh my gosh, I've read all of this. And then another set of screams, more silence than one long drawn-out scream. Instead of laying waste to them with his crowbar, Jeff looked at the monitors. His gaze wiped from one to the next. Cool. I'll look at it later. I gotta finish this. The last long scream had been deep and uneven. Jeff was unsure it had come from Hank. Hank? My name Jeff leaned forward and looked at the monitors. My name Jeff? He scanned all the interior views. My name Jeff. There! There! On the dining room camera feed, Hank could be seen sprinting through the wide open space. He was running flat out, as if being chased by a whole horde of ghouls. Rapt, Jeff watched until Hank disappeared from the dining room feed. Cool. Jeff's gaze shifted to the adjoining monitor, and sure enough, there was Hank pounding down the main hallway. He was coming toward the office. But wait, on the monitors, Hank stopped and looked over his shoulder. His movements were spasmodic. He was clearly scared out of his mind. As Jeff continued watching the monitor, Hank flung open one of the doors that lined the hall. One about midway down. Hank dashed through the door and disappeared from view. Jeff frowned. My name's Jeff. Jeff frowned and looked at the other monitors. None of them provided a view of what was behind the door Hank had gone through. It was simply a supply closet. Jeff knew this from his cursory check of the area. What the Hell are you doing? That's hell in the book, but I spelt it out for the kids. Jeff asked a Hank who couldn't see or hear him. This book is grammatically challenged. When he'd broken out of the poster frame glass, Hank hadn't thought to destroy the frosted glass set in all the doors. He wasn't sure why he hadn't, but now he was glad he left the doors alone. Hank was hoping this one was going to prevent him from having his face eaten or something worse. Hank wasn't sure. What kind of enclosure was he in? A closet? A room? The most wheezy bit of light from the hallway seeped through the frosted glass in the door, and that light revealed little more than the door frame and the doorknob. Everything else around Hank was so black that it was like a void of light that had mass and substance. It felt like that mass was crowding in Hank, attempting to wrap him in less than friendly hug. No, I'm grammatically challenged. I think I'm grammatically challenged. Now look back at the monitor. Look how much green there is. Look how much green there is. The sound of Hank's wheezing breaths filled the darkness. He could smell the reek of his own sweat and stink of his breath. It smelt like the stale coffee he'd swilled before coming to the pizzeria. Bro has coffee sweat. Everyone laugh. Let's get some L's in the chat for Hank who has coffee breath. Let's get some coffee breaths in the chat. Outside the door, a shout reached down the hall. Hank! It was my name Jeff's voice, and the guy didn't sound particularly scared. His voice was laced with more curiosity than fear. Hank exhaled in relief. If Jeff was coming down the hall calling Hank's name, the big yellow bird thing couldn't have been nearby. Jeff wasn't the sharpest tool in the toolbox, but he wasn't stupid enough to be calling out like that if he was facing a threat. It's almost like someone was mimicking my name's Jeff's voice. Jeff? Hank shouted. Hank! My name Jeff responded. What are you doing? My name's Jeff's voice was a little faint. He was still a ways down the hall. A force of two was better than a force of one. Together, they could get out of the building. Hank grabbed the doorknob. He tried to turn it. All right. I want to take this disrespect. It wouldn't budge. Oh my gosh. Hank jiggled the knob forcefully. It held fast. He threw his considerable bulk against the door. It held up to his weight. No longer thinking about my name Jeff or anything else, Hank was now single-mindedly intent on getting out of the room he was stuck in. He tried battering the door with his body again, but that got him nothing but a sore shoulder. Let's get some sore shoulders in the chat. I know I got some. Hank turned and looked into the outer space-like vacuum behind him. He quailed and turned back to the door. He began swiping at the wall with the flat of his hand. Come on, Hank muttered. There had to be a light switch, but there wasn't. Hank's groping hands found nothing but rough wall. Even when he stepped to the right and the left, a telltale jiggling came from above Hank's head. Not a switch, he thought. A pull cord! Let's get some pull cords in the chat. Hank reached up and felt around. His hand encountered the end of a heavy string. He grasped and pulled. Nothing. Come on, you stupid. Hank began as he yanked again. This time, the cord did its job. A single, bare light bulb came on. Hank blew out a pent-up breath. Yeah, he said. Now, all he had to do was find something in the room that could break the doorknob or the glass. Why was doorknob his first thought? Like, I know it's just the way they wrote it, but like, break the glass or the doorknob. Like, obviously the doorknob's gonna break easier than the glass, of course. These eyes didn't belong, and looked right into a pair of glowing eyes. It was balmy to balmy. These eyes didn't belong to the ugly, lethal-looking chick. Let's get some lethal-looking chicks in the chat. But they didn't belong to anything cuddly either. Hank was looking up into another tooth-filled face. This face, topped by two bent rabbit ears, was missing most of its fur. Its bright white eyes were surrounded by a mass of metal and exposed wires. Hank screamed yet again. Ah! Just a few feet from the closet, Hank's call had come from. Just a few feet from the closet, Hank's call had come from Jeff, who was walking slowly, lugging the heavy duffel bag. Froze when he heard, this whole time, my name Jeff has a duffel bag full of quarters. Jeff looked towards the door. The first scream followed by a second. Then a third. The sounds of whipping and crunching, which wrapped around the screams like a devouring serpent, reached out from behind the door. The door rattled, then smack, smack, smack. A silhouette hand hit the door frosted glass. Jeff's breath caught in his throat when he watched the hand leave an opaque smear across the glass. The smear streaked downward above the hand, and the hand dropped from view. Hank wasn't screaming anymore, Jeff realized. My name's Jeff. Hi. You? There are so many people joining the chat. Get out of my YouTube channel. This is for real 3 a.m. fans only. I'm joking. Please give me attention. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's my favorite. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. That's what I say every single time someone joins my chat. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. I need to stream on this channel more. It stimulates my need for attention. Ah! Jeff screamed. Or wait, no, Hank wasn't screaming. Jeff realized when the hand disappeared from the glass, all Jeff could hear was a faint gurgle. Then silence. Jeff's crowbar slipped from his hand. It hit the linoleum with a clank that rebounded down the hall and then seemed to boomerang back to Jeff. His gaze still riveted on the door. Jeff adjusted the duffel bag strap that cut into his shoulder. It felt like the duffel bag was getting heavier by the minute. Jeff took a tentative step toward the closed door. Hank? He whispered. Jeff wasn't sure why he said Hank's name. He didn't know what had happened to Hank, but he knew it wasn't good. Sam Cat's jump scare. Wow. Sam Cat, let's get some Sam Cats with jump scares. Sam Cats 1, 2, 3 jump scare. Still, maybe Hank was injured and needed help. Jeff shuffled forward another half step, but he stopped when the door shimmied ever so slightly. Let's get some shimmies in the chat. My name Jeff locked his eyes on the door. Guys, I'm telling you to put all this stuff in chat and you're not doing it. Jeff locked his eyes on the door. He looked back down the hallway toward the office. Should he retreat and lock himself in that room? He looked up and shimmy. Let's get some shimmy jump scares in the chat. Jeff locked his gaze on the door. He looked back down the hallway toward the office. Should he retreat and lock himself in that room? He looked on down the hall. Should he make a run for it? Head for the main doors? Jeff's brain was chained by the blood, engorged veins that pulsed madly in tune with his heart clacketing pace. He couldn't think. The door began to open, inch by excruciating inch. More and more mysterious murk was revealed. Hank? Hank did not appear, but something else did. Jeff felt like the floor beneath him turned into the yawing deck of a boat caught in a hurricane when he saw what was stepping out of the hallway. Reality folded in on itself. Jeff was looking at the oversized, dilapidated mass of robotic bunny. Let's get some robotic bunnies in chat. Jeff tried to process the torn and dirty fur, the exposed metal beneath it, and the blue bent ears. And as Jeff looked at the bunny, it turned towards him. The bunny had blazing white eyes and the exposed metal of a ravaging face dominated by an impossible wide mass of horrible teeth. Those eyes were looking right at Jeff. My name's Jeff. Jeff's brain overcome as it was managed. Wait, what? My brain put the commas in the wrong place. Jeff's brain, overcome as it was, managed to get a message to Jeff's feet. Run! His brain commanded. My name Jeff spun around and shot like a rocket down the hall, back toward the office. The heavy duffel bag slammed against Jeff's hips over and over as he ran. The pounding hurt, and yet Jeff couldn't bring himself to drop the bag. He kept lunging it with him as he galloped down the hall. He could hear the tinkling clink of coins hitting the floor beneath him, but he couldn't But even that couldn't discourage him from hanging on to the bag. He clutched it even as he rushed into the office and slammed the door behind him. Jeff fumbled with the door lock, eventually clicking it into place. He stared at the door as he finally dropped the duffel bag, more coins spilling over the floor with a clatter. My name Jeff didn't care. Looking wildly around, Jeff spotted the landline phone on the shelf behind the desk. He dashed over to it and snatched up the receiver. He immediately started punching 911 as he put the phone onto his. Jeff pulled the phone from his ear. He winced and stared at the receiver. The nightmarish clamor of children's laughing. The nightmarish clamor of children's laughing was blasting from the phone. The laughter was high pitched and frenzied. Jeff dropped the receiver back into the cradle. He looked over at the door. It was closed, and Jeff couldn't see anything through the glass. He turned his attention to the CCTV monitors, his gaze immediately landing on the exterior feed that was focused on the back of the building. Jeff saw his truck still sitting next to the loading dock, Max remaining in the cab with Bonesy. For an instant, Jeff's heart rate slowed. That truck was safety. All he had to do was get to it. Movement on another monitor caught Jeff's attention. He looked at it, glaring directly back at Jeff, or rather, at the camera that fed this monitor, were the blue bunny and the yellow chick with the sharp yellow beak. Although the chick's face was in better shape than the rabbit's, it didn't look any less threatening. Both the chicken and the bunny continued to study the camera. Jeff could feel them looking past the lens, down the wires, directly at him. He took a step back from the monitors. At the same time, the chick on the monitor moved. Jeff stepped forward again, leaning in to see the monitor more clearly. Jeff watched the chick bend over and crouch down. It was right in front of the vent, cover low down on the wall. Children, phone in ear. I tried to get away with that. How dare you mention that? M3 gigs, can you get a hold of yourself, please? Can you chill? I'm a little lost. I didn't read study for this. Well, take notes, I guess. No, this is the Five Nights at Freddy's book. Finally, book. Okay. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Oh my gosh. Where am I? He bends over. Something like that. Something about bacon, egg, and cheese, I think. It was right in front of the vent, cover low down on the wall. Jeff felt his brows bunch as he tried to figure out what the chick was. The chick was wretched the vent. The chick wrenched. The chick wrenched the vent cover off the wall. Then she held a plate out in front of her. Jeff blinked. He hadn't even noticed the plate until a bright pink cupcake with buck teeth hopped off the plate and disappeared into the now open vent. Yeah, this is for the test. There's gonna be a test on this. I should actually have a test. That would be funny. Um, guys, I've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes. I'm so tired. We're almost done. Almost done. Oh, holy moly. Oh my gosh. I'm stumbling over my words so much more. Oh my gosh. Oh my lord. Ugh. Jeff blinked. He hadn't noticed the plate until the bright pink cupcake with buck teeth hopped off the plate and disappeared into the now open vent. What the? My name Jeff began. Metallic banging and clanging resounded through the building. It was muffled and distant, but it stretched out and reached like fingers into the office. Jeff looked at the walls around him. The sound was coming from within. He returned his attention to the monitors, urging his brain to help him out. What was going on? Jeff looked at the walls again as the banging continued. And then he got it. No, Jeff said. The banging began getting louder. The cupcake was moving fast. Jeff stepped away from the desk and quickly scanned the room, his gaze going left and right, up and down. Was there a. His gaze landed on a vent cover on the wall. Jeff stared at it as the banging volume went up another couple notches. Getting close, Jeff thought he immediately dropped to his knees. He ducked under the criticism and looked at the vent cover. He had to find a way to block it. A noisy clanging bang. Jeff spotted a bright pink on the other side of the vent cover. Instantly, Jeff braced himself against the slated metal. It thrashed against his shoulder. Jeff yelled and looked down between the slants. He could see a furry of bright pink through the dark gray opening. The office fluorescent bulbs caught the white of gnashing razor-sharp teeth, snapping vigorously at the slanted metal. Jeff hiccuped several panicked breaths, trying to brace his rubber-soled hiking boots against the dusty linoleum. Jeff attempted to press harder against the vent cover. The dust, however, created a surface of slick as ice, and Jeff's feet slipped away from him. The teeth against the metal slants sounded like metal meeting a power saw. The high, tinny sound was drilling into Jeff's eardrums. Whimpering, he tried to replant his feet, but they once again slid across the floor. The vent cover shuddered, and a corner of it popped loose from the wall. Jeff wailed. He squeezed his eyes shut and shifted his shoulder to press against the loose edge. Another clamorous slam and silence. His breathing still raging, his pulse pounding. Jeff opened one eye and looked through the slants. He saw nothing. Jeff tilted his head and looked hard into the air shift's gloom. Goose, how did you not know this was Five Nights at Freddy's this whole time? We've been reading for an hour. What the crap? It's Five Nights at Freddy's. Get with the program, dog. Why didn't I have this on the whole time? The chute behind the cover was empty. Jeff exhaled loudly. He pulled his shoulder from the vent cover and brought a shaky hand to his face, wiping away the sweat that matted on his hair to his skin and ran down his neck. Weakly, Jeff levered himself to his feet. He took another deep breath. As he started to exhale, he turned back towards the desk. My name, Jeff, froze. His breathing stopped mid-exhale. The office door was open. Feeling like his eyeballs were vibrating in his head, Jeff strained to look through the open doorway. At the same time, he tried to reason out why the door was open. He had locked it, hadn't he? And even if it hadn't, who opened it? My name, Jeff's gaze whipped around the office. He was the only one in it, but his attention snapped to the filing cabinets on the opposite wall and to a single upright locker next to the breaker box on the wall opposite the door. Could something small have gotten into? That disturbing thought lit a fire under Jeff's feet. He hustled towards the open door, hesitantly next to the door jamb, eventually afraid of what might be hiding in the office and what might be lurking outside of it. Jeff inched his head through the door opening. Once he had his head far enough out into the hall to see, he looked along the length of the hall in both directions. He saw nothing. Jeff couldn't believe his luck, and he wasn't going to waste it. He immediately dashed out into the hallway and started towards the bub-a-dub-dub-dub-dub-dilly-dub-dub. Jeff turned into a statue. What was that? The voice, which seemed to be bouncing every which way at once, was a cross between a chant and a monotonous song. It was a teasing voice, but not a nice teasing. The tone was one a bully would use, taunting, torturing. Read my name rethought. Wait. Let's back that up. Try it again. My name Jeff rethought his action plan. Maybe running through the hall wasn't such a great idea at the moment. He turned and started back towards the office. As soon as Jeff took a step through, the office door whipped shut with a resounding wham. Jeff recoiled, but he recovered quickly. Rushing forward, Jeff grabbed the doorknob and tried to turn it. The knob wouldn't move. Jeff shook it. The knob didn't give in at all. It was locked. And worse, from down the hall towards the lobby, a tinkling, skittering sound was heading to Jeff's direction. A scrape and a clank, a cascade of clinks. Jeff knew exactly what that sound was. He was hearing the coins that had leaked from his duffel bag when he was running. They were strewn through the hallway and now were being moved by footsteps. That's kind of cool. That's kind of awesome. That's so cool. Shuffle, clank, scrap, clatter. Something was moving the coins across the linoleum. Dilly bob 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 dilly da. Each note of the jeering little ditty drilled into Jeff's body. Like each note was one of a billion nanobots boring in through his pores. Jeff's whole body began to tremble. He could even hear his teeth chattering. Jeff whipped away from the office door. He took down the hall, away from the lobby, toward the red exit sign at the hallway end. In full gallop, when he reached the emergency exit door, my name Jeff slammed into the crash bar and bounced back. As he shifted his feet to keep his balance, he heard a rapid rush of footsteps whizzing towards him. Jeff turned, just in time to see a flash of a pirate's hook arcing through the air, heading directly at his face. Jeff opened his mouth to scream, but the sound was cut off before it could begin. End of chapter 12. Yeah. We got it, guys. All right. I don't know what to do. I'm going to try to do this again maybe tomorrow. I have a little bit less times on Monday, Wednesday. Ooh. So, maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. We'll see. I got some school to do. I hope you guys had fun. Oh my gosh. How are 5 people still watching this? Get out of here. Go live your life. You have a life to live. Get out of here. Go. Shoo. Get out of here. I'm glad you had fun to watch it. It was fun for me too. It was fun for me. Let's get some milk in the chat. Let's get some milk in the chat. I'm gone. I'm so tired. Thanks for watching. If you have missed some of this or you just want to watch it again, this will be posted on the SamCats123 AM channel. That's the second channel. Chai tea latte. I'm about to make you a dye latte. Yeah, it'll be posted on SamCats123 AM. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll probably, if the SamCats123 AM channel gets more than 50 subs, I might still stream here. Just because, this is where the audience is at. That's annoying. I always hate when YouTubers stream on their main channel, but, I don't know. I feel like no one's going to watch this if I don't do it. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have an epic Friday. And I'll see you guys later. Bye. Good. Oh, wait. I got to get the thing right. Bye. Good luck, Charlie.